it's fine because I'm thrilled that we have Billy from the UK, who I accidentally dropped, or who a bug accidentally dropped, back on to talk to us about religious discussions getting sidetracked for seeking a definition of God. So thanks. Welcome, Billy.
Hi. Hi. Is that Matt? Can you hear me?
Yep, Matt and Dan, we're both here.
That's right.
Hi. I'm a little bit nervous, but so my point is that let me start with the explaining how it can sometimes go, how often here conversations go. Atheists are very offended by inconsistencies and absurd things in, for example, the Bible, which I understand because I have been very offended by it as well for this reason. And so they express their feeling, and Christians or religious people will try to patch up the inconsistencies and show them that there's a way to interpret it that's consistent and comprehensive and reasonable. But my point is that if there is a greater power than us, if there are things that we experience which are beyond our strength to express and comprehend, but are shown to us by a greater power, then we won't be able to produce a comprehensive, consistent description of God or of the greater power. If we could produce a comprehensive description, then
Billy?
We would be above that. We would be over.
No, sir. That's absolutely not true. I can describe things without being greater than those things. We're not looking for an exhaustive definition of God. We just like a passable definition of God so that we can realize that this thing that's being proposed has characteristics, and you have confirmed it exists. And so in your discussion, you said, if there is a greater power, well, that's a big if, and that's assuming the very thing that's in question. And then you followed it up by saying, if there are things that are beyond our ken, but are shown to us by a greater power. Well, I'm not aware of anything that is beyond our ken, which has been shown to us by a greater power. As a matter of fact, I don't know what a greater power is, and I don't know anything that anyone has ever learned from a supposed greater power. Can you give an example of something that we've learned from a greater power and how we know that it came from a greater power?
Yes. Well, I mean, these examples, again, aren't going to be like things that you can comprehensively describe, but the things in life which are showing that it's rich beyond our ability to express are things like beauty in music and nature.
No, sir. Billy, I'm afraid that you did not listen to my question correctly. I'm saying, what things are beyond our understanding that have been shown to us by a greater power? Because I saw beauty on my own. No greater power showed me beauty. I want to know what it is that is beyond our understanding, which you claim has been shown to us by a greater power.
You saw it by yourself, you're saying?
I've seen things and evaluated them as beautiful, yes. I've had beauty described to me. There's a definition of beauty in the dictionary. There's a definition of beauty in each person's mind. We can have conversations. We can talk about what is and isn't beautiful. We understand that it's not, that it is ultimately to some extent subjective, but there are common standards about beauty. But nothing about our understanding of beauty is in any way tied to being discovered and shown to us by a greater power.
Do you feel, when you experience beauty and such, that you could come to a comprehensive description of it, that it's something within your power to fully...
That's not relevant. I asked a question, which is, what has been shown to us by a higher power? And how do you know that this something has been shown to us by a higher power? Whether or not I'm able to explain and describe beauty is completely irrelevant to whether or not there is something that has been shown to us by a higher power.
Well, the basis for me thinking that there is a higher power is that when I experience these things, I have the sure feeling that it is beyond, even in principle, my ability to.
Well, I'm sorry that you're selling yourself short and that you're believing things for fallacious reasoning, but I want good reasons to believe something. I can't believe in a God just because you're befuddled by things.
So I'm not asking you to believe in a God or believe in anything. I'm not really doing that. But
well, then why'd you call?
Well, because I want to discuss it, but I'm not trying to make anything happen.
Sure. You don't want the responsibility because you, if you were trying to defend me, if you were trying to convince me, would have to actually defend your beliefs. But you don't want to defend your beliefs. You want to just state what they are as if it's some curiosity. Well, I'm not interested in curiosity. I'm interested in whether or not it's true that there's a God. And you called in to suggest that there are things beyond our comprehension which have been revealed to us by a God. And when I ask you to prove it, you come up with nothing other than that you're personally befuddled.
Well, this is my point because, and when I said earlier that if there is a greater power, you said that was an assumption. I don't see how that is the case. I'm saying if there was a greater power.
Literally the word if is what makes it an assumption. I'm sorry that you don't understand argumentation, but go ahead.
I'm not saying there is. I'm saying if.
You believe there is. Why are you not standing up for the courage of your convictions? Why is it that theists are constantly cowering in the I'm not saying it's real, I just think it's the case, and why don't you do this? You made a statement that there were things that were revealed to us by a higher power, and I want to know what it is.
Yeah. But my point is that I mean, I'm allowed to say if there was, right? Even though, I can say this. Surely I'm allowed to say that. And if there was...
You're not allowed to say it without being challenged at being dishonest. Not here. If you make the assertion, as you did...
Shall we say...
that there are things that were revealed to us by a higher power, and I ask you what it is, how long should I wait for you to give an example before I move on?
Maybe it's the word if which you object to. So let's say there is a greater power. There are things beyond our capability to fully express. Then you're requiring a proof of it. You see, if we could prove God's existence, if we could summon God like we can prove scientific facts, then it wouldn't be he wouldn't be a greater thing than us.
Bullshit.
Billy.
Absolute. Oh, go ahead, Dan, because this is absolute bullshit, and I would hang up. So it's all you, Dan.
What is the point of the Bible? Then what is the point of the Bible if not a description of who God is and what His people have done?
To be fair, right? Billy may not be a Christian.
That's true, but like, he did say he did say the Bible at the beginning, right? I'm assuming maybe you're not a Christian, but you did use the Bible. As
please ask me.
Say again.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. So, what is the point of it? Well, I think that our attempts to express these things are really futile. So we can.
Talking to you is.
Hello.
I said talking to you is definitely futile because instead of defending what you believe or making a case for it, you just argued that we can't prove God. Well, let me ask you this, Billy. Why would you believe something that you can't prove? Do you not care about the truth?
Because in a situation where there is a greater power than us, that we are subject to a rule that we didn't put in place, then we are not going to be able to prove in the sense of things which are within our scope in the same way about this greater thing. We're not going to be able to, if we could.
No, Billy, you are confused and making statements that are just bizarrely ridiculous. There is no reason to think that if in fact there is a God, that it would be something that we couldn't prove.
Or even not just prove, at least just have reasons to believe.
Right.
Right.
But what we're saying is you need to have a good reason to believe something. And I've asked you what the good reason is. And your thing is, well, if God's greater than us, then we wouldn't be able to prove him. That's not an explanation for why you're willing to believe something without good evidence.
Not quite. That wasn't what I said when you asked me for my reasons. My reasons are that I experience things which I think are real, which I also am incapable of describing in a consistent way. I'm not, part of an organized religion, so my examples won't be the same as many people give. But, for example, in music, beauty in music, for example, I don't think I can explain what it is about profound music that is really the core of...
So what? The fact that you are incapable of explaining something does not mean there's a God. We're right back to your befuddlement from earlier. It's not a good reason for you to conclude. If people ran around saying, because I don't understand something, therefore I'm going to believe that there's a magic person who does, we would never have discovered any fucking thing in the history of the world, because we would have written lightning off to the gods. The fact that you are personally unable to describe your experiences doesn't mean they're from a God. That is a grossly irrational, fallacious line of reasoning.
But that's not quite what I'm saying.
Well, then would you say what you're saying? Because we've been here for over 10 minutes. And the only thing we keep getting back to is that you're really befuddled and think that that's the reason to believe in a God.
Well, it's not like a situation where I feel like I just need to try a bit harder and I'm able to explain.
I know you're not trying harder. You gave up. That's the point.
No. About these things which convince me there's a greater power, it's not just that I'm not able to explain them yet. They also come with the sense that it's impossible. You're never going to be able to make any progress towards explaining.
Which is irrelevant as to whether or not there's a God. Can you put together an actual, sensible, reasonable argument, valid in structure, that leads to, therefore it is reasonable to conclude that a God exists?
You're not really letting me
waste time.
What I'm saying may not lead to it, but then
why come to the conclusion?
You're the one that's reached a conclusion. You're here to convince us that you are reasonable in reaching a conclusion. Can you do that?
Well, I was trying to explain more about my feeling of the experience I had, which led me to this. But
what experience? Describe the experience that you had that led you to a God.
So you're saying that it just merely comes down to me?
I said, describe the experience you had that led you to a God.
Well, there's more than one, but I'm giving an example of music, for example.
Okay. What about music led you to God?
It's because the profound experiences of the beauty of music is something which, it's not just something which I haven't got round to being able to describe, because there are lots of things, obviously, which are confusing first, and then you work on it and you can describe. No, this is something where I feel you could spend a lifetime.
Well, I'm sorry, Billy. But the fact that you don't think this is an issue where anybody could ever get to, A, does not mean that you are correct that nobody could ever get there. And B, let's assume that nobody could ever get there with music. How does that demonstrate that there's a God?
Oh, so we could assume that there was something which humanity couldn't ever comprehensively describe.
I just said, listen to me very carefully, Billy. Let's go ahead and go with your flawed assumption that music is something that mankind will never understand properly. The appeal and awe and feelings we derive from music. We'll just go with your flawed confusion How does that demonstrate that therefore there must be a God? Maybe it's just not comprehensible.
Well, okay, so if we make that assumption, then it means that there's something we experience which is beyond our capability to describe, beyond our capability to comprehensively describe, right? There's something beyond it's like something beyond our power. There's something greater than us.
No, Billy, what's the fact that we can experience something that we can't describe doesn't mean there's a God. How do you make that case that there is?
Well, maybe you mean
I don't want to hear maybes, Billy. Make a fucking case.
At the moment, I would be arguing for the existence of something greater than us, a greater power. If you don't like calling that God, but I mean, I think it comes to the same thing.
Please, what is wrong here, Billy? Why is it that you cannot answer the question? I'm going to give you one last chance. I'm going to give away the whole farm. Billy, for the sake of this argument, you have convinced me that music and the way we feel about it, the experience we have, is indescribable, it is incomprehensible, and no human throughout the rest of history will ever be able to properly grok what, how, and why music impacts us the way that it does. How does that lead to the conclusion that therefore there must be a God or a higher power?
Because if even in principle we're incapable of describing it, then there must be something beyond our scope that exists, which impacts us and gives us this experience that is beyond our power to. I mean, if we were able to do it, then we would be able to survey our world fully. But if there's something which exists beyond our limits, then it's extra to us.
Yeah, Billy, I'm gonna suggest that you go back and record the last 4 or 5 sentences you just uttered that were an attempt to answer that question, and outline them, because you'll find that at no point in there were you anywhere in the fucking same universe of actually answering the question that was addressed. This is the thing, and this is what Billy seemed to be trying to say but didn't say, which is that if there's something that affects us, which we cannot comprehend, certainly there must be something out there that can comprehend it. But that's simply not the case. It may be the case in the same way that certain numbers are irrational and endless, that they are irrational and endless for anyone and everyone, that there's a uniformity there, that just because something cannot be a ratio of a whole number, you might as well be saying, well, we haven't found an end to pi, so surely there must be a God out there that knows what the last digit of pi is. That's the same type of reasoning that's going on here. Not exactly. I know somebody's going to get mad and email, oh, you didn't get there.
If there's a chimpanzee that's watching a TV and they say, oh, there must be a greater power because I can't understand it. Well, they just don't know how TV works, right?
They're right. We are the greater power.
Well, but it's not, we're not ultimate though. We're not like, right, something beyond what maybe beyond a chimp's comprehension, but like you can still point to our existence and like still get to the methodologies there, right? This is what like frustrates me about these arguments is people say, oh, well, we just can't understand it. It's this thing that exists, but we don't understand how it works. But if you're saying you can get there via music or rituals, then there's something that's describing the thing, right? Like you are describing at least a method by which people come to certain conclusions about that thing and what it's like. Like I could point to something to go extreme, right? I could look at the Holocaust and I think that that's a profound evil, but that doesn't lead me to conclude, well, there must be a higher power because I don't understand it, right? Like the profoundness works both ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, and plus, I don't know, that we are describing it in a way. The thing I was going to make about the Bible, because he did bring up the Bible, I guess he didn't say he was a Christian, was that like people are describing God in there constantly in the Bible. Like they're making all kinds of claims about him and like what he is and what he thinks and what he's doing. So clearly these people who were able to figure something out, unless you're saying the Bible isn't relevant, which is fine, but you know, that's something you hear with Christians, right? That God is beyond comprehension when they have like, you know, definitions on what he is. So
yeah, you're claiming to F the ineffable and to describe the indescribable. The thing that Billy was doing, that which was an annoying bit of a cheat, is, well, I'm not saying it's God, I'm saying it's a higher power, because higher power is not clearly defined. As a matter of fact, it's absolutely useless. And so it could have been the case, and at one point I think Billy got dangerously close to saying this, that if music is something that we absolutely can't understand, then that proves that there's something that is beyond our understanding. And the something that is beyond our understanding must therefore be a higher power, which means music is the higher power. Not the thing out there that understands music, but music itself. And this,
I think that's a very good, clear point of distinction there too. Yeah.